The Jordan Poole experiment failed. After being a key piece on the 2022 Championship Warriors, he is now one of the worst players on the Washington Wizards, a team that is about to be overtaken by the Pistons, who had the longest losing streak in NBA history. How did Jordan Poole go from a player who is expected to have a breakout year to now someone with the worst contract in the NBA? A rising star who has found himself crashing back down to earth. To find the answers to this question, we need to go back to this offseason and figure out why the Jordan Poole experiment failed. During the offseason, Jordan was told to pack his bags and fly out to the capital of the United States, where he would team up with another young player that was a key part of a championship team in Kyle Kuzma. The Washington Wizards organization had high hopes for the duo, touting them both as cornerstones of the franchise, as they were finally able to let go of the rope. Bradley Beal move on to the next part of his career in Phoenix. This was a fresh start, and the organization was excited to see what this new team could do. And during the preseason, their excitement was justified as Jordan Poole dropped 41 points against the Knicks. But unfortunately for them, they should have learned from Jordan's last coach, Steve Kerr. This was an exception, not a rule. As the season went on, the franchise realized the player that they traded for was just a shell of the player they actually wanted. Each game he would have multiple plays that would make you scratch your head and ask, is this all an act or was this really him? He once thought the clock stopped after a scored basket, so he let the ball roll down the court with time ticking off the clock when they were down by 10. Or the time he threw a lob off the backboard to Kyle Kuzma and celebrated even though his team was down 21 points. Although those two examples are funny, there are some moments that as a fan make you scratch your head. Here, he's not even looking at the play being drawn up. He's just complaining about what happened on the court and then he just leaves the huddle. This is definitely not the player that was crucial to the Warriors championship team. And as of right now, I don't think anybody in the Wizards organization or even the NBA looks at him as a crucial piece of Washington's future. Some even say that he has the worst contract in the league. Seeing how this all turned out, it makes you wonder how we went from such high highs to such low lows that we are now experiencing. And to find the answers, we have to go back to the next point that began the process of him leaving the Bay Area. They're coming off a championship where the Warriors' three best players were Steph Curry, Andrew Wiggins, and Jordan Poole. It made some of the older guys question their mortality in the league. How much longer would they be viewed as an asset to a team that's winning championships with young players? And for one player, it weighed heavy on him more than it did others, and that player's name was Draymond Green. Everybody knows what happened on October 5th, 2022, and there are a ton of different stories about why it occurred. Whether or not you think Jordan crossed the line is one thing, but the one thing that is clear is what Draymond did is a disgusting act, and for him to be able to wash his hands and basically get away clean with no consequences led to his actions that happened last year in the playoffs with him stomping on Sabonis' chest, and this year's actions of putting Gobert in a chokehold and then punching Yusuf Nurkic. After the incident that occurred in practice, you could feel the energy of the team could never match the highs of the previous year, and they were defeated in the second round by the Los Angeles Lakers. Something had to change, and unfortunately for Jordan, it meant that the victim was moved while the assaulter got to keep his job. The Wizards had high hope for Poole because they had seen what he could be and thought he could have a bounce-back year. They expected him to come out and maybe even be an all-star, and even a cornerstone of the franchise. And now that he's not reaching those expectations, it seems as if the whole world is turning against him. But if we take a step back real quick, why did they hold such high expectations for him in the first place? It's a question that has many answers. Ultimately, it comes down to the very essence of his basketball career and the weight of his past achievements looming over him like a dark cloud, reminding everyone how far he has fallen. In the words of the famous anime Cowboy Bebop, he's gonna carry that weight. Every episode of Cowboy Bebop ends with a quote, and the quote on the ending screen after Spike died says, "You're gonna carry that weight." This saying can have a variety of interpretations, but for Spike it meant one thing. Carrying the weight means all your past choices, good or bad, will catch up to you, and you will have to deal with them at some point. Spike thought he had lost the love of his life because of the choices that he had made. Due to the fact he had no longer had a drive to live, he was just going through the motions until the day his past caught up with him. He was drifting around from planet to planet, not really caring what happened to him anymore. He was just staying alive because it was just the right thing to do. He believed he died already once, and he was just a ghost of his former self. This isn't an uncommon sentiment. Many people feel that they are unable to move on with their lives because something in their past stopped them from wanting more from themselves. Whether that be a failed relationship, losing their job, or not accomplishing their goals, they resign to a life where they are just drifting day to day until their past catches up with them. The only thing that can motivate these people is the two things that motivate all of us: death and taxes. Bills still need to be paid, food still needs to be put on the table. They never allow themselves to live in the present because they're stuck in the past, and the only thing moving them forward is the end. When Jordan Poole was no longer surrounded by Hall of Fame players, the harsh reality of his past caught up with him. And the reality is that he took his time for Golden State for granted. There are multiple news stories and articles talking about his laziness and how he only played on one side of the ball because he only cared about being a big name in the NBA, but he wasn't in love with the process of getting better each day. When he got moved to a place where he isn't playing well and he doesn't receive the love from the crowd, it feels as if he's just given up and he's just going through the motions. Just like how Spike metaphorically died once, it seems Jordan is experiencing the same thing. For Jordan, it's a crucial point in his career where he has to not let himself drift from planet to planet. He can't let his past shortcomings determine his future, and he can't let himself get stuck in the past glory days of the Warrior. He has to find a balance between finding peace with his time in Golden State and accepting the new door that's been opened for him in Washington. He has to acknowledge, while he'll never be in the band again, he can still remain an amazing solo act. Carry That Weight is also a Beatles song on the last album that the group ever put out. The song has few lyrics, but the story they tell is eye-opening. The main line they sing is, "Boy, you're gonna carry that weight for a long time." Meaning, even though the group was going their separate ways, they would never get out from under the shadow and the accomplishments they had as a group. In the second verse, it gives a glimpse into how Paul McCartney felt about the group breaking up. As the Beatles approached their end, Paul could not force the band to stay together, even though he tried, but rather, he must accept that he can only request their staying, even if they still leave anyway. When he fails and they all go their separate ways, boy, he's gonna carry that weight. They all are. The lyrics to the song serve as an acknowledgement by the group that nothing they would ever do as individual artists would ever equal the success they achieved together, and they must always carry the weight of the Beatles' past wherever they go. McCartney said, "We were entering a period where we were doing LSD, staying up all night, and then wishing it would wear off, discovering that it wouldn't. A bad trip could leave you feeling a bit heavy instead of enjoying the lightness of youth. That, coupled with the business problems at Apple Records, the business meetings were just soul destroying. We'd sit in an office and it was a place you just didn't want to be, with people you didn't want to be with." The group had accomplished a feat that many would attempt but many would never reach, and they were dealing with the fact that they were going to have to break up. There were multiple reasons for this, the first being that being in such a competitive industry, your relationships with your friends and peers is bound to deteriorate as you keep constantly trying to one-up each other. And then, as he said, you have to deal with the industry side of things, signing contracts, booking shows, and trying to get paid. It's a story not too dissimilar with the Warriors. They were a tightly knitted group that achieved a championship, a thing that many Hall of Fame players have never got. And as the season went on, their relationships with each other started to deteriorate to the point where you actually had a physical altercation between teammates. And then on the industry side, it was a contract year and players knew it, and players weren't going to get the money that they thought they deserved. This all led to Jordan Poole being sent out to Washington. Although this is seen as a negative, it is one of the most memorable things that the group ever produced. Jordan Poole can learn from this and apply it. He can say, even though my run with the Warriors is over, it won't be forgotten. I don't have to keep trying to prove I'm Jordan Poole from 2022, because people know that. I have to show them who Jordan Poole is in 2024. Jordan doesn't need to go through the next decade trying to find the rope again, when he can just pick it up where he is and keep moving forward. When Spike realizes that he needs to stop running from his past and accept it, he takes initiative. Spike can't move on in life until he stops living in the past and the present. That knowledge, he sets out on his final mission. However, when he's going to leave, he is stopped by Faye, a crewmate that he met during the series, and then they have an eye-opening conversation.
You told me once to forget the past, because it doesn't matter.
Look at my eyes, Faye. One of them is a fake, because I lost it in an accident. Since then, I've been seeing the past in one eye, and the present in the other. Never the whole picture.
What are you going to do? Just throw your life away like it was nothing?
I'm not going there to die. I'm going to find out if I'm really alive.
For Spike, it's no longer about just living, it's about how you're living. He must find out if the choices he made in the past are really worth it. Cowboy Bebop is special because it's just regular peoples whose choices in all reality don't have that big of an impact on the world. It's much different than a Marvel movie where they literally save the universe. It's just normal people making decisions trying to survive. And if they die, the world will keep spinning. For Jordan, it's the same thing. If he doesn't change, the NBA will keep moving forward and he could find himself on the outside looking in. If he wants the change to be made in his current situation, he needs to stop chasing and start accepting. If he wants to be saved, he must do it himself, or else he'll be lost to the history books. The thing is, for Jordan Poole, there's no turning back, so he has to get comfortable and adjust to the new situation. He will have to put in work, and just like the saying goes, it gets easier every day, but you have to do it every day. He shouldn't want his career to be looked at as a failure, because in all reality, his NBA career is really a success story. He went from a G League player to a main roster spot to a key contributor on a championship team, and now to what was believed as a franchise player. When you go into a new situation that doesn't have the guardrails you previously had, you're gonna throw a few gutter balls, but every now and again you'll hit a pin. Then slowly, you hit pins every time, and by the time you look up, you just threw a strike. You shouldn't judge people on how they start, but how they finish. And for Jordan Poole, man, has it been a rough start. But if you're committed to leaving the past in the past and learning and accepting the failures each day, you'll become better than the day before. And when you look up, you'll find yourself right where you're meant to be.